as parents, what we do with our lives, right? With our families, and obviously with our children, we have direct impact on their lives, in the short term, in the medium term, and even in the long term. So inadvertently, right, we feel responsible for almost everything, um, that we do, every decision that we make, right, that will affect them. So how much should you, or how much should we hold ourselves accountable, um, or how much should we hold ourselves, um, responsible, or even, there's a fine line between accountability and blame. There's a fine line between, um, guilt and self-awareness, and guilt and self-accountability, right? If we hold ourselves accountable so that we will make better decisions in the future, right? When we realize what we did, right, wasn't, uh, necessarily the best decision, or sometimes what we did in the past was blatantly wrong, something that we were not aware of, but now we know better, and we're not going to do it again, and we will resolve to not do it again. All right. So basically, what I'm trying to say here is, um, while, right, we should hold ourselves accountable, and while we are responsible for our personal growth, right, while we are responsible, for not repeating the same mistakes again, we should also be careful not to cross the line where we start blaming ourselves and start feeling guilty for our children, for what we have done or what we have not done, right? 5 years ago, 10 years ago. That is not a healthy situation, right? For yourselves, not only for yourselves, but also for your children, for your child. Because when you are constantly, um, you know, focusing on the mistakes that you have made, right, you are creating guilt for yourself, and you can't change the past. Not only that, but you're thinking about the past that you can't change. When? Right now. So what does that mean? That means that you cannot give 100%, right, attention to what you are supposed to be doing, for what, you know, um, to what you are supposed to be doing currently, right? That will have consequences to your children tomorrow, next week, next month. So the mistakes that we make, we can't change them, but we can learn from them, right? The mistakes don't define us, right? We learn from it, so that in the future, right, you can make better decisions. Not even in the future, so that in the present moment, at this very moment, you can make better decisions. So it's not only what you do, right? Sometimes we just focus too much on what we do. It's also how we do what we do, right? Taking care of their, um, health, right? But how committed are we, right, in terms of taking care of the health, right? Because you could say, like, taking them to the doctor and all that, right, when they're sick, and, try to cook at home as much as possible, because it's healthier cooking, it's healthier food, it's a healthier diet, right? But how committed are you, right? Do you find out enough information about nutrition for growing children, right? I'm not saying like we should be obsessed 24/7, right? Getting everything organic, right? I'm not talking about that level, but you must be committed enough, right, to do whatever that you set out to do. Because if you decided to do something, right, definitely it's worth paying enough attention for that thing to be worthwhile. So how you do what you do is also very important. And if you constantly look back to the past that we can't change, right, we are robbing of ourselves of the present, that we can do a lot to shape what is about to come tomorrow, day after tomorrow, or in the weeks and months and years ahead. All right, so that much I want to say. In my example, I could have said that, you know, maybe we should have 2 children rather than 1, because, you know, he's 10 and a half years old now, right? That means, you know, he's by himself, right? When we are not, you know, with him, right? Say when we are cooking, or when I was, you know, doing some work at the backyard, in the backyard, or in the garage, and of course he can join us, right? We can get him to help, but most of the time when he's not helping us, right, he will be playing with himself, right? Or maybe he will go to the neighbors, but it's just only for a few hours. And from time to time he would also ask us like, why didn't he have a sibling, right? While we will try our best to answer the question, right, to rationalize, you know, to him, right, we don't have to try that hard. It is what it is, right? There's no need to feel apologetic. There's no need to feel any guilt. But that doesn't mean that we don't care about his loneliness sometimes, right? What can we do, right? We can be more organized. We can plan ahead more often than not. Because sometimes on a weekend when we don't have any plans, right, you know, the boredom sets in, right? Not the whole afternoon, but, you know, certain parts of the day, right, is inevitable. But then again, also, we need to remind ourselves, I need to remind myself that it's always good, right, to spend some time with yourself from time to time, so that you can talk to yourself. So, I mean, luckily he has a reading habit, so I would get him some interesting books, leave it on his desk. The good thing about him is when he see a new book, he definitely will flip around, scan through, read the blurb, you know, and all that. So everything in moderation, okay? Learn from our mistakes, and 5 years ago, what you can't see and what, you know, you could see now, right? These are things you can't blame yourselves. You know, you were what you were 5 years ago. You were who you were 5 years ago. All right. Now, right now, you obviously are able to see more things than you were able to see when you were 5 years younger. Obviously, you have 5 years more of maturity right now. You know, so if you look back in the last 20 years, all that you have done, right, you still feel it was correct, it is correct 100%, up to your satisfaction, right, no regrets whatsoever, then you would not have grown. You would not have grown. You would not have matured, because, you know, from 20 years ago and now, you still see things the same way. How can that be? How can that be? You know, as a 50-year-old, you see things from a 50-year-old perspective. You know, between now and death, right, the distance is this much. But when you were 25, when you were 18, right? You definitely can't see things as clearly as you can see them now. So be aware of that. Everything in moderation and focus on the present, right? I'm going to talk about how we can focus on the present in the next clip, but just briefly, people talk about, be present, but it becomes like a meaningless cliche, but being present means acceptance, a lot of acceptance of the present, not only the present, of the past, of the uncertainty of the future, but always accept that, because it is what it is, right? Even if you don't accept it, it is the reality, it is the truth, it is almost like it is factual, All right, I'm going to talk about that later. I don't want to keep this too long, right? So we have gone past 10 minutes already, so think about that, okay? Self-examine, right? But don't self-blame, okay? Self-improve and be present. Have a good day, everybody. Bye. Thanks for listening.